Welcome to Rick's Corner. Today I have Jack Armstrong, who was a wrestler for years, and he's a bodybuilder, and he trains down in Gold's Venice every day. Jack, I have a question.
Yeah.
At one time, the mecca of bodybuilding at Gold's had all the great bodybuilders.
Everybody was here at one time. I would say in the 60s and 70s.
Right.
Right.
Now, over the years, what's happened? Where'd they all go?
You know, I heard a lot of guys move to Vegas, and because it's actually a bigger bang for your buck, you can get a better, you can buy a house cheaper and everything there.
Yeah.
And in general, they're not at Gold's anymore. They come and they go, and they only come through town during a photo shoot. Otherwise, they won't even be around no more.
Yeah, I noticed that when I was down there today. It's just most of the average Joe training. There's a couple of big guys, but I mean, the equipment is the best I've seen.
The great equipment. We got 3 rooms of equipment in Venice, and I'll tell you that every piece of equipment is great because you could also, in case you're like us, you get surgery, you got your therapy place. In other words, there's no therapy place better built than Gold's.
Yeah.
But you could do your therapy, you could do your training, you could do workouts, you can train for a contest. Any degree you need, you got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now let's talk on a subject because everybody seems to think it's taboo, and I've done 4 Rick's Corners on steroids. Have you ever taken steroids?
No, I've taken three shots of Deca when I tore my deltoid. My doctor put me on it for 3 weeks in 1980. And believe it or not, he said, "You're going to heal with this." And I said, "Really?" And I was never on steroids like for bodybuilding. I was on steroids for healing.
Right.
So he gave me the steroid for healing. And in 3 weeks, my shoulder was perfect when before it was almost dead. And it went to perfect. He says, "That's because you never take."
Oh.
He says, so it always works. Then another time in I think it was 1988, I tore my knee and my ankle. My ankle I had a little break in my ankle. And he gave me a steroid, foot doctor, gave me a steroid called Medrol.
Oh, I know what Medrol is.
Medrol, M-E-D-R-O-L, 5 milligrams. And he says, go on this. And I was limping around like for months. I couldn't walk 1 block without pain in my ankle. Limping around for months and months. And he says, you take this, I'll do some reflexology on you. We'll work the ankle, We worked it for like a week, 2 weeks. He gave me the Medrol. I got a prescription, took it for like 5 days. The thing went away, never came back. I ran the marathon, 26 miles, 1988, Long Beach. Right after that. It had to be 3 months from not being able to walk to run the marathon, and I felt good at the end of the marathon. No ankle problems or anything.
So in that respect, there is a use for steroids.
Positive.
Yeah,
And there's a wrestler that we both know, Eduardo Carpentier.
Of course.
Yeah, the Flying Frenchman. This guy is great. Never took steroids, had a great build. He was a gymnast and all that stuff. And he was in Canada on I think there's a speedway where people really go nuts on the Canada driving.
Yeah.
And they go 75, 85, 90, and they ride up and down. He got hit by a car direct, and he went right through the steering wheel. And this was back in late 60s or in the 60s sometime. The steering wheel went through his chest. They said, oh, you're not going to recover from this, but we have something that's called a steroid, and it may help you in recover. He says in 90 days he was perfect from thinking like it's over, from being over. So in that respect, here's a guy never took anything. He took it for the specific thing, which was breaks and bones and smashes, and it came back perfect. So every time I took it for a physical ailment, the thing was 100% great.
But you didn't take it year-round to train.
I never took it to train. I took it exactly like the doctor said, take it for this, and this will heal. And then it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, what happened over the years is that people have learned that this does heal and build tissue. And so, like any bodybuilder, they say, well, if I take that, then I can build tissue and build more tissue and get bigger and get bigger and bigger.
Right.
And that's what's happened that we've seen.
Oh, yeah. We see guys that never intend on going into L.A. or Venice contest, the little tiniest contest. They come with 20-inch arms.
Yeah. Because,
and they only train 3 months.
Yeah, it's an ego thing. They're taking it for ego, and they're taking so much that they're blowing themselves up, and they're raising their blood pressure, and they're raising their blood count, and they're destroying themselves. Because if you're not going to compete, and I'm not saying that you have to take them to compete, but if you're not going to compete, what's the purpose of taking them? They're going to walk around the street just to look big.
There's no reason, and they forget that they have another half a body.
Yeah.
You know, most of these guys have chest, shoulders, and arms, and you see them with little pin legs.
No legs.
Actually, they have a lot of court cases. Their legs assumed for non-support.
Exactly. Because they didn't have a leg to stand on.
That's exactly right.
I noticed in the gym today when I was down, there's only a couple of guys that are really big and are obviously on the juice. The rest of the people are just pretty normal. And there's a lot of good bodies in there, the guys that aren't taking stuff because they train hard.
They really train, yeah. They're in there all the time, consecutively, working out, watching the diet, and you come up with a good physique.
Yeah.
But you will not get 20-inch arms and a 54-inch chest by not taking.
No.
You have to take. You can get 20-inch arms and a 54-inch chest and be a little fat.
Yeah.
You know, like a truck driver type built or a wrestler or a football player type. You can get that style. But to get vascularity and cuts and a little 32, 34-inch waist, you got to be on.
Yeah,
You got to be. Otherwise, the fat will accumulate, and then you get the bulk type look.
Hold on 1 second. We have got to break for a commercial, but we'll be right back. Okay. Yeah, we have commercials now. Okay, now we're back. The problem with people who take steroids, and the problem that they don't understand what they do, is they think they can take them, eat anything, and they're going to get huge.
Absolutely.
And what happens is they get bloated and pimply.
Right.
And they don't look right. And they don't get the muscularity.
Toxic.
They get toxic. Yeah.
Toxic. Right.
Liver problems.
Yeah.
And it's just diabetes can come from it. All kinds of things. Now I've taken them. I've been off. I've been on. I went off for like 4 months recently. To normalize my blood pressure and my blood count, and it went down to where it was perfect, but it wasn't really bad before. But I still take testosterone, a shot a week, because at my age it does help me train harder, it makes my muscles harder, it reduces my body fat, and my body doesn't produce it, but I'm older enough to do that.
Right.
You guys 19, 20 years old don't need it. You already have your testosterone flowing, and you're doing well with that. Let that take over and let that build your body. Now you can take enhancers or boosters like Tribulus and Yohimbe that are natural supplements, and they're not as good as steroids, obviously, but they do help somewhat, and your nutrition is going to help big time.
Right. A lot has to do with what you eat.
Well, even the guys that are pros that are on the stuff, their nutrition is right on the point. I mean, they go to a contest, it's chicken breast and asparagus.
Everything's exactly.
Everything's exactly to the T several times a day, and if they didn't do that, the steroids wouldn't matter.
Right. That's exactly what would happen, because then it wouldn't be the same person. Also, the people have a misconception of one thing. Some of these people are gifted physiques.
Yeah.
In other words, if you have this natural body that has the genetics to have every body part, and you only have it small, and then you go on steroids and then you have it big, you're perfect for competition.
Right.
But some people will never get calves, never get legs. Some people never get arms, and they'll get great backs, great chests. You don't have a physique for Mr. Olympia or Mr. USA and above. You know, or professional contests. You don't have the physique. But you'll still have a great physique, but you're not going to have a physique that could be on stage and win contests.
Right. Back in the days of the 60s, 50s and 60s, steroids weren't really around predominantly. They had maybe some real basic stuff. And some of the greats like Steve Reeves and those guys never took anything.
Nothing. No.
Nothing. They just
Bill
trained
Pearl,
hard.
those guys.
Bill Pearl did
Eiferman.
later on. Yeah, they trained hard. They did the milk and egg protein. They did powerlifting, and they did odd lifting, and they built their foundation by lifting heavy. And then they smoothed it out, and they did some shaping with the dumbbells and all that, and they had good physiques. They weren't as blown up as they are today, but they had better builds because they could do a vacuum with their stomach. The guys on the steroids and the GH, they can't do a vacuum because their stomach's distended.
Right, that's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, one of the last guys to do was Frank Zane.
That's right.
Yeah, Frank Zane. And here's a great thing. There was a guy named Abe Goldberg. Giant vacuum. He used to own a gym in New York, which became Mid-City Health Club afterwards. He owned the original Mid-City. Abe Goldberg. Huge chest, was like a Mr. New York competitor back in those days. And then there was a guy named Bruce Randall. He won the Universe contest, Napper. And you ready? Nobody would even know. He was 400 pounds, and he went down to 189 pounds, and then he hit it around 192 and won the Universe.
I remember that very well.
Now, what does that have to do with steroids? I mean, it's like unbelievable. And the guy had the vacuum, and like you're talking about, he had the overhead shots and stuff like that.
I got a vacuum over there I use on the rug.
That's much easier. A lot less work.
Look, I'm going to have to round this up because we've gone over the limit for YouTube, but we're going to do a part 2 right now. And so I'm going to close out part 1 of Rick's Corner and Jack, and we'll be back for part 2. So stay tuned.
Take care.